editing. 1 minute. Hope everybody's doing well. Want to thank everybody for watching, subscribing. We are at over 2,500. For me, that's huge. Even when I get 20 views after an hour or two of putting a video up, that's huge. I don't know that people would be that interested in watching me. Especially other carvers. A lot of what I get is other carvers, so thumbs up to you guys for let's get right into it. This is a video that I pieced together a few months ago. Just haven't gotten around to finishing it till now. This is just basics of oil and varnish. Hope it helps you guys out. We're going to go over some basic stuff that I use, things that I've learned. Thanks for watching, and hope you enjoy. Hope this helps you guys. The Helmsman Spar urethane. It's an exterior Spar urethane. You don't want to use a polyurethane. You want to use a Spar urethane. Anything Spar varnish with a super deck oil. We have here two different types of super deck oil. This is your transparent stain with a natural color in it. Now I'm looking at the color of this stuff, and this is it's a full-on oil. With very, very minimal solids. If you look at the color on the stick, and you can see the difference. But I also had the varnish stick on this end. So if we flip ends to a mostly natural wood color, and just dip it in, you can see it's a good color. It's gonna darken a little. And it soaks right in right away. Second dip. This is a good way to test oils. You can watch it dry. You can see the colors it's going to give you when it's mostly dry. Now this here I didn't mix any varnish in. And if I go right over from here into here, you can see the clear difference of where the varnish grabs right onto the wood. Now, this is a very similar color to the Log Home Oil Finish Amber Hue. The natural it's a little bit more clear. It's almost more of a oaky tone. Amber Hue. The Amber Hue has a little bit more golden color to it. If you are looking for the real differences, I would say stick to these two, and you know, your initial investment probably around $100 for 2 cans. Either way, it's going to be good stuff no matter what you use. I will at some point start using this with the varnish mix. Right now I have the Amber Hue Log Home Finish. This is the older stuff. I have this to finish up. Still have some in here. This is the full-on oil. I can shake that aggressively, because if you shake something with a Spar urethane in it, when you shake it, it breaks up the urethane. It breaks up the finish. So that's why we stir and don't shake. As a rule, generally, I like to stir instead of shake in general. But normally, with a log home oil finish, you can shake them pretty aggressively, and it's actually better to initially do that. Usually the paint shop or the hardware store you buy them at does the shaking. Usually with Super Deck 2, I think they shake them at the factory, because I've never had a problem with Super Deck ever being separated. Now, this is what happens when we leave them in the oil for a long time. That's actually the buildup there is the varnish sitting onto the bristles of the brush. Sometimes you can save these, and sometimes you can't. Sometimes it's better to just start over. Now this is my dip can. You see there's varnish residue in there. And that's all that I use in there is the same mix that I use in here. This is a little bit different color. Or I'll use a straight oil. If you use mineral spirits, it gums up, gels up really bad. So if you have a brush that you no longer want to use, my suggestion is put it outside somewhere where it's going to dry. You don't want to leave stuff drying in your shop. A lot of this stuff has warnings of spontaneous combustion. So just to be on the safe side, I don't like to leave stuff in the shop, like rags or brushes that could catch fire on their own. So when I varnish piece, I start out varnishing or oiling the bare wood first, because everything dark is going to drip down onto that. If you leave this wood bare and this drips down to there, it's actually going to stain the wood, because that wood right now is absorbing quickly anything that hits it. If you put a shield of oil or varnish over that, and then this drips from here to there, that's going to sit on top of that. Does that make sense? When I worked in a cabinet shop, we had to watch for drips onto dry pieces of cabinetry, because it would actually show, even if you oiled over it. Any time you put oil or varnish onto a dry piece of wood, you want to do it in even layers, nice and wet, and go as quickly as you can, because that's going to show if you have any rips or streaks or any drips, especially from the burn. When I varnish my bears, I always start off with the snouts first, and I do the ears, and I do the pads. Any of the lighter areas I do first. Let that sit for a minute, and then go in and varnish all the dark stuff. And you can paint right over the light stuff even after you've got darkness on it, because you're going to use your air compressor to blow the piece off after the piece has sat for a bit and the varnish and oil has soaked in. Sorry, this thing's being... You can use that air compressor to blow the piece off after it's sat for, 10 or 15 minutes or an hour or whatever, and the base coat has sat in there. You want to do it when it's damp. Now, and I want to show you real quick my whole setup. I use a drip pan underneath to catch what I can of the mess, because I don't want a huge buildup there. And like I said, you want to be careful of anything that has spontaneous combustion hazard. All of these oils have some bit of spontaneous combustion hazard. Watco is extremely high because it outgasses quickly. Spontaneous combustion is basically when the gases are stirred up and evaporation happens so quickly that it builds up heat and actually ignites those gases. That's how gasoline in a saw works too. When you compress it, you're compressing the vapors, you're not compressing the liquid as much. So, we have our Helmsman Spar urethane, right? And I've gone over this in another video, but I will say it again. Be very weary of what you use, because I tried this Urethane Spar urethane and it's completely different. It acts completely different. I mean, it still works, but it takes longer to dry, for one, and it goes on differently. It actually shows little bubbles and then those disappear, but I was not impressed with the way that the Urethane works. I don't like using it. Urethane is only good as, in my experience, it's only good as a latex varnish or an acrylic varnish, water base. If you're going to use interior stuff, there are uses for it. Very few on my book, but that being said, moving on. Now, if you're doing solely interior things that are going to go like on a countertop or a table, I recommend using the Watco Butcher Block oil. Use that, and then you can varnish either with a clear Helmsman wherever you want varnish on top of that. Like if you paint it and then varnish it, you could use the Urethane for that, for interior stuff. The Urethane works fine on its own. Still takes a longer time to dry. Different application properties. It was when I mixed it with the Super Deck. I swear by this mixture. It's 3 to 1, 4 to 1, 5 to 1, which is basically if I took a full gallon of this and one of these little half gallon or 32 full ounce, which is actually, it's less than half a gallon. It's a quart. I stand corrected. It's a quarter of a gallon. One of these to one of these, full. Now you can't mix one of these into one of these full, so what you have to do is then guess. So if I put this much Super Deck in, I'm probably going to put this much Helmsman in. You can divide the cans up. You can actually use a marker and you can go 1 and 2, and then you can just go 1 and 2, and it's not an exact measure at all. It doesn't have to be an exact measure. The other thing is do it at your own discretion too. Use more or less depending on what kind of finish you want. Me personally, I like good flow, I like good coverage, and 2 coats gives me really glossy. 1 coat gives me a semi-gloss finish and done. So if I do 2 coats, man, it really, really looks great, and those pieces are going to last a lot longer. The finish is going to last a lot longer. Now you can use, I've used McCloskey's Man-O-War. I don't have cans of that with me here right now, but that's another one that works really good with the Super Deck. So I got a pair of gloves. I went to Harbor Freight and bought these. These are probably 3-4 years old. When I put them up, I try to put them up like this. And the great thing about gloves is you're not getting this stuff on you. You're not getting it all over your hands. And again, there too, I'm in clothes that I really don't care about because varnish is going to splash around. So that's pretty much it, really. And you know, instead of standing there talking, I could have been telling you all this while I was varnishing. And I kind of just go at it. I don't really be too careful about it because I have the drip pan. The other thing is your shop floor. Most shop floors are places that we don't really have to take too much care about. They're utility floors. They can either be easily cleaned or they could be messed up, and it would actually add to the lastability of the floor. I've never had a shop floor that I had to worry about. Now, I had a sign shop at one time in an art studio, and yes, we had to cover the floors there because we were spray painting a lot, and that was in a building where they were still renovating, and they said we could use it for whatever, but just cover the floors, and they were tile floors. And I will say that that was when the overspray got past the floor coverings. It was a lot of cleaning. I did clean it. I did a good job, but man, it took a long time to clean that. So try to get yourself set up where you can make a mess and not worry about it. And you see, when I dip in, I get a good load on it. I try not to go past the metal. I don't want scuzz up in here because it just makes a mess. There's no reason to. I dip it in and I wipe back. The only reason I wipe back is because if I don't, you see all that varnish I just wasted. It's just a lot wasted. Now, if I'm in a huge hurry, if I'm doing like a whole ton of them, and I get down to my last few and it's getting late at night and I want to get out of there, then yeah, you can throw from the can to the piece and let it flow. Now, the idea that I have that I want to get into is I would love to get a big tank or like a big old bathtub that I could fill with varnish and somehow cover it and seal it when I'm not using it, and just dip. If I could put a screw in the bottom of the piece on a wire and just dip the pieces in, I mean, you'd be cutting down your varnishing times immensely by doing that. And it would be really cool to get into that kind of process. I'd need a whole other room just for that. Which maybe someday I will have the shop with all that. But that's always an idea. If you could get a 50-gallon drum that you can seal off, and you want to get, 5 or 10 gallons of varnish and oil mix in the bottom of that, and agitate it somehow, and seal it off. 5-gallon bucket, you could fill it with oil. For all these small pieces, you could actually oil them in a 5-gallon bucket, just dipping them. But that's a big expense. I mean, you're talking $50-$60 a can, plus your varnish. So if you go 5 gallons of oil, and then you take out for your varnish, take out 1 gallon of oil, mix in a gallon of varnish. Now you have a 5-to-1 mix. There's 4 gallons of oil at $50 a piece. So you're over $200 in oil right there. And then your varnish, a gallon of this varnish, there's another $50. So 5 gallons of material, I mean, you're looking at, almost close to $250 after tax. And if that goes bad, if you forget about it or don't use it for a while, man, that's a lot of waste. And it's not so much the cost. I mean, there's costs. There's costs to all this that we do. But you see there, essentially, I did the base first and let it sit as I was working up here. And because I did the base first, I don't have any stains there. I have little drips here and there. You're going to get drips here and there. And that's primarily my coating process. What I'm looking for is, right now, if I have any bare spots, if it looks like a bare spot, you'll see, or where oil's soaked in, I'll hit it again. Just want to make sure I get good coverage. And the beautiful thing about this grid too is you can lay pieces down, you can roll them across here. The only thing is all the buildup over the years of varnish on these things. As you lay things on them, you're going to pick up that buildup. So you just want to be sure that it's going to be easy to get off. The other thing is the bases of the carvings, I let them drip dry in the box, and then I clean bases later on down the road. Thanks for hanging out and watching another video on my series of carving tips and tricks and educational series. Hope these videos help you guys, and hope everyone's doing well. Now hopefully on to some videos from the summer. We're just getting caught up from ones from the spring that I've tried to get edited and out. Again, thank you. 2,500 plus viewers. That's amazing for me. So thanks for all the support. See you guys next time.